everyone. This is Lucas Ross Sports. Lucas Ross, your commentator. We continue our 2022 college football predictions. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are up next. I'll give you my thoughts on this team, give you my official prediction for this team, and go through their schedule, and I will go from there. But before we do that, let's look back at 2021 for this Notre Dame team. Notre Dame's record last year was 11-2 overall in 2021. This was a good team last year. Lost Brian Kelly now as head coach. They got a new head coach now. I think Notre Dame should be overall really good. They have recruited so well, and I think they have a shot to maybe be a top team this year. Offensively and defensively in the rankings last year, let's go over those. 20th on offense and 15th on defense. Really solid numbers there. Really good solid numbers there. They have a great defense coming back this year. Offensively, they lose quite a lot. You know, they lost a lot on the offensive line as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of question marks for Notre Dame on that offensive side of the ball. We take a look at the points per game and opponents per game. 35.2 points given, or actually 35.2 on the offensive side of the ball. They averaged 35.2 points, and then 19.7 points given up on the defensive side of the ball. But this was a really good team last year. A lot to build on this year as well. My thoughts on this team is that I think they're going to be really good, but just not as good as last year. I think they still have a shot, though, to make, it to a New Year's Six Bowl game, but I think it will be really tough. Let's get to the schedule now here for Notre Dame for 2022. And there's that opening game on the road at Ohio State. Big game here to begin their season in week number 1. It's probably the biggest game of week number 1. It's one of those college game day type games as well. I mean, I think they'll be at Ohio State here, but it really depends on where they go. But this game right here is really interesting. Ohio State has a lot coming back this year. C.J. Stroud also back at quarterback. Ohio State is going to be loaded. I think they're going to have a really good offensive line as well. Notre Dame, though, they will be close in this game. I mean, it's going to be one of those games that can go either way, but I think with it being on the road, I really don't see Notre Dame pulling off an upset. I think Ohio State is clearly the favorite team coming into this game. It's not a 50-50 game. I think Notre Dame is clearly an underdog, but I think Notre Dame does lose to Ohio State on the road. It's one of those games that is just tough to predict, but it's a road game. Obviously, Ohio State is a lot, bigger than Notre Dame as well, so I got to go with the Buckeyes in this game here. And then Notre Dame takes care of business against Marshall on September the 10th. That is an easy win there. And then they face California here at home. Cal is not a really big team that I'm really high on this year. They're not a team that I think is going to do a lot of things this year either. I got Notre Dame winning this one pretty easily. I think they'll pull away, and they should take care of business against Cal. I don't think Cal will be all that competitive this year. It just depends on what they look like. Then there's that game on the road at North Carolina. North Carolina is another team that everybody is really not high on this year. I don't really think this team has what it takes to really compete in the ACC, in the Coastal Division. I think they're probably the third best team in the Coastal Division. Just depends on what their schedule looks like. And I have North Carolina to do next week, so I mean, it's really interesting what's going to happen in this game. But it is a game that is going to go either way. I think first half, they'll give Notre Dame a scare. At the end of the day, though, I think Notre Dame goes on the road and defeats North Carolina here. It will be a really close game, but, second half, I think Notre Dame does pull away. BYU is next here at Las Vegas. They get a bye week before playing this game, so, I mean, it's really good news there. But let's be honest, BYU has a lot coming back this year on both sides of the ball. They're one of the top 5 returning production teams in the country this year. Everybody is really high on this BYU team, but Notre Dame really could be competitive in this game. I think they are going to be competitive, but BYU will keep it close. But I just love Notre Dame in this game. I think the offense will start to click in a little bit here for Notre Dame as well, and I think they do defeat BYU here at Las Vegas. If it was on the road, I would choose BYU to win. If it was at home, though, for Notre Dame, I would choose it. But it's a neutral site game, but I just love Notre Dame's chances. I think they will win this game against BYU. Stanford is next here on October the 15th. Rival game here. I said in my Stanford video that I think Stanford is a dangerous team this year. They're going to be one of the most dangerous teams in the Pac-12 probably this year, I would say. But I think Notre Dame, though, this is one of those upset alert type games. if Stanford was ranked in the top 10 or something, or top 5, something like that. Notre Dame, though, I think is the team to, beat Stanford to give them their first loss of the season if they were undefeated. And I think that does happen. I think Notre Dame does defeat Stanford here. It's a game that goes either way, but I think it's a defensive battle. I think it's a defensive battle throughout the entire game. I think Stanford's defense is good, but the offense is good as well. But it's just, if Notre Dame can score some points in this game, they will win this game. But if they don't, I think Stanford is going to win. But it's one of those games that just comes down to the wire. It's a rival game as well. So I think Notre Dame, though, with home field advantage, I think they do defeat Stanford. Then they take care of business against UNLV on October 22nd, and then they face Syracuse on the road on October 29th. This is not going to be an easy game. I think it's one of those trap games for Notre Dame. I know Syracuse fans are not really high on this team either, but I think this is a really good underdog Syracuse team. I'm saying they're an underdog this year in the ACC. I think it's going to be a close game probably in this one. It's one of those, games that Notre Dame could potentially get upset as well. But I like Notre Dame in this one. I think they do go on the road and defeat Syracuse here. And I think they do, improve to 7-1. Then they face Clemson on November 5th. This is perhaps a big game here. This is a game that potentially Notre Dame could wind up winning as well in order to make it to the college football playoffs somehow. But the November schedule is really difficult, but it starts with Clemson. Clemson is a team that I'm really high on this year. I think they'll be a lot better than people might say. And a lot of people have chosen Notre Dame to defeat Clemson in this game. But I like Clemson a lot better in this one. I like Clemson, I think they're going to be a lot better, more dangerous. And I think, the defense will step up here from the Clemson. I know it's, sounds crazy and all, but I just like Clemson in this game because of the, defense, and I think they'll really step up on offense as well. I think DJ Ogilvy will be better than last year as well. He just has to be consistent as well. So, I think Notre Dame does lose, though. But it is a game that Notre Dame can win. I think it's going to be a close one. Navy is at Baltimore here on November 12th. I think this is a game that Notre Dame will take care of business in. I really don't see this one being all that close. It's a neutral site game as well, but I think Notre Dame does defeat Navy here on November 12th. It's a rival game, I know that, but I just think Notre Dame is way too talented for Navy. Boston College coming up next here on November 19th. This is a game that is going to be a little bit interesting, but I think Notre Dame should take care of business in this one. I'm not really high on the Eagles this year as well. Boston College, I know they had a good season last year, but I think this is a different Boston College team this year. I got Notre Dame winning that one, so that's an easy win there. So now Notre Dame heads to the final game on the road at USC. A big game here against Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. This is going to be a really interesting game. I think it's going to go either way. Two great offenses maybe by this point. Defensively, both teams are good. With it being on the road, though, I have to go with the home field advantage. Like I say, it's a 50-50 game. I have to go with the home team. I have to go with USC on this win. And I think it's one of those games that can go either way. But I like USC in this one. It's on the road, so I think Notre Dame will lose that one. And then Notre Dame's record for 2022 is 9-3. So that's what I have Notre Dame going at. Ohio State is definitely a loss. I really don't see Notre Dame, defeating Ohio State. But if they do defeat Clemson, this team could wind up going 10-2. But those two road games, or actually those three road games, Syracuse is a potential loss. Let me be honest, it's one of those trap games. North Carolina as well, I'm saying that could be a trap game, but North Carolina is a team that I'm not really high on. Let's be honest, I don't think they're going to be all that good. BYU is a potential loss as well, but I see this team, I think 9-3 is a reasonable prediction as well. Maybe 10-2 is possible as well. So, but Notre Dame is my official prediction for 2022 at 9-3. Continue to do more football predictions throughout this week. Stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.